Hey y'all, it's Mixtery. This is just my silly story of my first job. So get your sketchbook, a pencil, or a tablet, or just grab a nice cup of coffee as you listen to my story. Enjoy! Also, there's a busy street right next to me, and if you hear in the background, please ignore it. I can't do anything about it. Just loud cars drive by all the time, so sorry in advance. My first job was during my second semester in college. I finally turned 18 and now I have to be an adult and get a job. At the time, I was really struggling to find a job because in order to get a job nowadays, you have to have connections, and my connections were very limited. One day, I was hanging out with my best friend and my mom called me. I walked into the hallway and answered where she proceeded to say, "Hey, my boss wants to know when you're available to work and when can you come in." So, context, I've been begging my mom to get me into her job for the longest time so I could start making money. But the problem was, when I started college, I was still 17, and you have to be at least 18 to apply. Now that I'm 18, I can finally work. But my soon-to-be boss wanted to skip the application process and the interview process, so I was basically just showing up to work. Which, to be honest, I was super okay with that. I told her I'd absolutely take the offer, and now I was finally employed for the first time in my life. So 2 weeks later, I started as a janitor in a senior home. Okay, listen, this is all I got. I was willing to take anything at this point. I worked with my mom, but she was in the laundry department and I was in the cleaning department. During my first couple of days of working, I was trying to get to know the residents in the hallway I was cleaning. We technically weren't supposed to interact or do anything for them because we weren't, properly trained for that. That's not our job. Like, even if they fell out of their wheelchair, we couldn't go and help them. I felt bad, but occasionally I did help them with tiny things like grabbing something for them if they couldn't get it themselves. My first awkward resident interaction was with, let's call her Shelly. She was a sweet woman, like a sweet old lady. She spoke low, but she would sometimes wink at me, which, okay, Shelly. She didn't realize that I was not a CNA at first and was trying to get me to help her use the bathroom. I kept telling her no, but then suddenly, bro dropped her pants. I walked out so fast from that room and I just told my boss. My boss was really chill, so he told me don't worry about it and just ignore her. Another time I had to clean a room. As I was walking down the hallway of the next room, it fucking stank. It smelled like straight up shit, and that's because the male resident was in fact in need of a change. And when a resident needs a change, a CNA must go in there and change their diaper. And I'm not a CNA, so I was not gonna do that. But I am a housekeeper or a janitor, so I had to go clean his room either way. So when I walked into his room, he looked at me and said, "Change?" And I said, "No, sir, I'm a housekeeper, not a CNA." I went to go clean his room and I held my breath as long as I could. I was cleaning his toilet, and then all of a sudden, I just hear a shh. And then the smell got 100 times worse. This elderly man took off his bottoms and put them on the floor with caca everywhere. I wanted to cry because I thought I was gonna have to clean that shit up. I didn't know that the CNAs were supposed to clean it up at the time. When I finished cleaning the bathroom, I stepped out and told my boss again. And thank freaking goodness that he said, "Don't clean that up. The CNAs are supposed to do that." I was actually able to breathe a sigh of relief. Oh, it still smells like shit. I think my worst moment with the resident was when I literally got hit in the head. Whenever I worked weekends, I had to clean the whole building instead of my usual routine on the weekdays. So I had to clean rooms of residents I didn't really know or wasn't used to yet. There's this one resident who believes she's still a child, I think, at least from what I've seen. She wouldn't speak any words, just make baby noises and like color on a coloring book all the time. One weekend, I had to clean her room. As I was cleaning, I noticed she dropped some crayons on the floor, so I went down to pick it up. And as soon as I did, she started hitting my head. It wasn't any smacking either. She was punching my head. She's older, so it's not like I was getting beat to death, but she still hit pretty hard. Like, she got like 4 or 5 punches on my head. And it's like, I would have got up quicker if it wasn't for the fact I was just in shock that she was just like hitting my head. And I didn't understand why. Like, what the heck did I do? I was just trying to get your crayons. I was literally just trying to be nice. I did nothing for you to hit me. What the heck, man? I stood up. I put the most fakest smile I could give her. I left the crayons on her desk and I walked out. I could not finish her room, and I just waited to come back later and finish it when she was out in the hallway instead. That was so embarrassing. I stayed far away from her after that. I did not tell my boss because honestly, what was he gonna do? I really hope that no nurses or CNAs saw that, because I would have started crying. Not out of like the fact that she hit me, but the fact how embarrassing it was to get hit by an elderly woman. Luckily, the only time I ever had to clean her room was on the weekends, and during the weekends, I had to work the full day, where I had to clean the whole building by myself. And I hated working weekends because I'd get so overwhelmed and stressed. When I got home the first time I worked a weekend, I kind of broke down. It was really embarrassing because I was crying to my friends about it. I was already overwhelmed and stressed because of school, and coming back from work exhausted, not being able to do anything from how tired I was, stressed me out even more. I really struggled to deal with stress, so I went from working full weekends to just one Saturday a week. It still sucked because at the time my friends would meet up and I really wanted to be with them, but I needed to work and the money, so I went home in a bad mood all the time. But to be honest, I barely made any money from this job, so eventually I had to switch jobs where there was more flexible hours / days and easier without so much stress as before. I have a couple more stories from this job, so maybe I'll make a part 2 in the future. I don't know. Anyway, see ya.